What started as a simple graduation celebration in an upscale Atlanta neighborhood on May 23, 2023, would become the worst mistake of Karen Mitchell's career. A mistake that would cost her everything she'd built over 25 years, land her in federal court, and ultimately result in a $2.1 million judgment that would change how neighborhoods across Georgia handle discrimination complaints. This is the story of how one woman's racist assumptions about a black family's celebration triggered a chain of events that would expose a pattern of harassment spanning 3 years, involve 4 different law enforcement agencies, and reveal connections to a nationwide network of discriminatory HOA practices. By the time the sun set that day, Karen Mitchell had unknowingly set in motion her own complete destruction, professional, financial, and social. The very systems she thought would protect her prejudices would instead turn against her, delivering a form of justice so comprehensive that it would make national headlines and set new precedents for civil rights violations in residential communities. But to understand how a simple noise complaint turned into a $2.1 million federal case, we need to start at the beginning with a proud grandmother planning the perfect party for her grandson. Before I tell you what happened that day, if you believe in karma and justice, especially for our black communities who face this kind of harassment daily, take a second to hit that like button and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to see how far this story of justice travels. Now, Dr. Patricia Williams wasn't just any grandmother. At 67, she was the former chief medical officer of Atlanta General Hospital, a position she'd held for 12 years before retiring. She'd served on the boards of 3 major medical foundations, published over 40 peer-reviewed articles on healthcare equity, and in 2018, received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her work establishing free clinics in underserved communities across the Southeast. Her husband, Judge Robert Williams, had recently retired after 22 years on the Georgia Court of Appeals. Together, they'd raised 4 successful children, 2 doctors, an aerospace engineer, and a civil rights attorney, and had lived in their $2.8 million home in the exclusive Buckhead Heights neighborhood for 15 years. On this particular Saturday, Dr. Williams was putting the finishing touches on her grandson Marcus's graduation party. Marcus had just graduated summa cum laude from Emory University with a degree in biomedical engineering and would be starting at Johns Hopkins Medical School in the fall. The party was elegant but modest, about 60 guests, all family and close friends, with a jazz quartet playing softly in their expansive backyard. At 2:47 p.m., as Dr. Williams was arranging the dessert table she'd spent 3 days preparing, she had no idea that her neighbor, 2 houses down, was about to make a phone call that would change multiple lives forever. She was simply a proud grandmother, celebrating her grandson's achievements on a beautiful spring afternoon. The party was scheduled from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., well within the neighborhood's established quiet hours. The Williams had even gone above and beyond, sending personalized invitations to all their immediate neighbors 2 weeks prior, letting them know about the celebration. Every neighbor had responded positively except one. Karen Mitchell, who lived 2 houses down, had never responded at all. At 3:15 p.m., the party was in full swing. The jazz quartet was playing a smooth rendition of Summertime, and Marcus was taking photos with his medical school acceptance letter when Karen Mitchell appeared at the Williams front gate. Dr. Williams noticed her first. Despite never having spoken more than a handful of words to Karen in 15 years, she recognized the stern expression, the crossed arms, the aggressive stance. She excused herself from a conversation with Marcus's advisor and walked toward the gate, her smile never wavering. "Good afternoon, Karen. Would you like to join us? We're celebrating Marcus's graduation." "I'm not here to celebrate anything. This noise needs to stop immediately." Dr. Williams maintained her composure. "I understand. We're keeping the music at a reasonable level. The party will be over by 8, as we mentioned in the invitation." "What invitation?" "I never gave you permission to disturb the entire neighborhood. We sent invitations 2 weeks ago, but regardless, we're well within the neighborhood guidelines. The music is..." "Don't quote guidelines to me. I've lived here for 25 years. I know what's appropriate for this neighborhood. And this isn't it." Dr. Williams studied her neighbor's face, reading the subtext clearly. "What exactly isn't appropriate, Karen?" "The music, the smell of whatever you're cooking, All these cars parked on the street. Some of us are trying to enjoy our Saturday in peace. The music is jazz, played by professional musicians from the Atlanta Symphony. We're serving catered food from Henri's, the French restaurant downtown. And our guests all have parking passes, which we obtained from the HOA office last week. Karen's face reddened. I don't care if it's the Vienna Philharmonic. This is excessive for a graduation party. My nephew graduated from Harvard last year, and we managed to celebrate appropriately. A nice dinner at the club. Civilized. Well, we prefer to celebrate at home, with our community. Now, you're welcome to join us, or you're welcome to return to your home, but the party will continue as planned. We'll see about that. Karen turned on her heel and marched back toward her house. Dr. Williams watched her go, a familiar weariness settling over her shoulders. She'd dealt with Karens before in hospital boardrooms, at medical conferences, in grocery stores. But this was her home, her family's celebration. She wouldn't let prejudice ruin Marcus's day. 20 minutes later, at 3:42 p.m., the first police car arrived. Officer James Crawford, a 12-year veteran of the Atlanta PD, pulled up to the Williams house with a resigned expression. He'd been dispatched for a noise complaint with possible drug activity. Dr. Williams met him at the gate, Judge Williams beside her. Good afternoon, officer. I'm Dr. Patricia Williams, and this is my husband, Judge Robert Williams. How can we help you? Officer Crawford's eyebrows rose slightly at the titles, but he remained professional. We received a complaint about excessive noise and possible marijuana use. I need to investigate. Of course. Please, come in. Would you like some lemonade? It's quite warm today. As Officer Crawford entered the backyard, he took in the scene. Well-dressed guests of all ages, children playing cornhole on the lawn, elderly relatives seated at tables with white tablecloths, and the jazz quartet playing at a volume no louder than a normal conversation. Ma'am, I need to be honest. I don't see any violations here. The music is within acceptable levels. I don't detect any marijuana, and everyone seems to be behaving appropriately. That's because there are no violations, officer. We're simply celebrating my grandson's graduation from Emory and his acceptance to Johns Hopkins Medical School. Congratulations to him. Look, between you and me, I think we both know what this is really about. But I have to do my due diligence. Do you mind if I walk through the party briefly? Not at all. And please, do have some food before you go. The caterers outdid themselves. If you're seeing the pattern here, how even the most accomplished black families can't celebrate without harassment, hit that subscribe button right now. We need to share these stories, because sunlight is the best disinfectant for racism. Now, watch what happens when Karen realizes the police won't do her bidding. Officer Crawford spent 15 minutes at the party, chatting with guests, complimenting the jazz quartet, and even accepting a plate of food from Dr. Williams. He was preparing to leave when 3 more police cars arrived, followed by a van from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Karen Mitchell stood in her driveway, phone in hand, gesturing wildly as she spoke to someone. Officer Crawford's radio crackled to life. Crawford, what's your 20? Still at the Williams residence on Pembroke Drive. No violations found, just a graduation party. We've got multiple calls coming in. Complainant says you're not doing your job. Sheriff's Department is responding to reports of underage drinking and drug activity. Crawford sighed. Copy that, but I'm telling you, there's nothing here. Dr. Williams watched as more officers approached her gate. Her guests had begun to notice, conversations trailing off, as they observed the growing police presence. Marcus looked stricken, his moment of celebration transforming into something else entirely. Gran, maybe we should do nothing different, Dr. Williams said firmly. We have every right to be here, celebrating your achievements. Let me handle this. The lead sheriff's deputy, a young man who couldn't have been older than Marcus, approached with his hand resting on his service weapon. Ma'am, we've received multiple reports of illegal activity at this residence. We need everyone to step back while we investigate. Judge Williams stepped forward. Deputy, I'm Judge Robert Williams, retired from the Georgia Court of Appeals. This is our home. Officer Crawford has already investigated and found no violations. What specific illegal activity are you investigating? The deputy shifted uncomfortably. Reports of underage drinking, marijuana use, disturbing the peace, and, he consulted his notepad, possible gang activity. A collective gasp went through the assembled guests. Dr. Williams felt her carefully maintained composure crack slightly. Gang activity? At a graduation party for medical school-bound students? Ma'am, I'm just responding to the calls we received. By now, several guests had begun recording on their phones. Dr. Ayanna Johnson, Marcus's advisor from Emory, and a prominent civil rights attorney, stepped forward. Deputy, I'm going to need your badge number and the name of your supervisor. I'm also going to need copies of all the complaints you've received. The situation escalated quickly. Karen Mitchell, emboldened by the police presence, had walked onto the Williams property and was loudly pointing out violations to anyone who would listen. That's marijuana I smell. Check their pockets. And that girl over there looks underage with that red cup. Test it. Test all of them. Dr. Williams maintained her dignity even as Karen's accusations grew more outrageous. Karen, that girl is my colleague, Dr. Sarah Chen. She's 34 years old and drinking sparkling cider, and what you smell is the herbs from the French catering. Don't lie to me. I know what I smell. Officers, why aren't you arresting anyone? Officer Crawford intervened. Ma'am, you need to return to your property. You're trespassing. Trespassing? I'm a concerned citizen reporting criminal activity. The jazz quartet had stopped playing. Guests stood in uncomfortable clusters, some still recording, others comforting upset children. Marcus stood with his acceptance letter crumpled in his fist, tears of frustration in his eyes as he watched his grandmother try to salvage his celebration. Judge Williams pulled out his phone and began making calls. Within minutes, he was on the line with the Atlanta police chief, then the Fulton County sheriff, then the district attorney's office. His voice remained calm, but those who knew him recognized the steel beneath. Meanwhile, Dr. Johnson was documenting everything, interviewing guests, and collecting contact information. This is important, she told them. What's happening here is a clear violation of civil rights. Everyone who witnesses this needs to be prepared to testify. The situation reached a tipping point when Karen, frustrated by the officer's refusal to make arrests, grabbed Dr. Williams' arm. Dr. Williams gently but firmly removed Karen's hand. Mrs. Mitchell, this is assault. Officers, I need this documented. Officer Crawford stepped forward. Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to step back immediately. You're taking their side? I'll have your badge. All of your badges. My brother-in-law is a city councilman. My cousin is on the police board. As she ranted, listing her connections and threatening various lawsuits, one of the guests, a local news producer, made a phone call. Within 30 minutes, news vans began arriving. The sheriff's deputies, realizing they were now being filmed by professional news crews, quickly concluded their investigation with the same result as Officer Crawford, no violations found. But the damage was done. The party was effectively over, guests leaving with hugs for the Williams family and shaking heads at what they'd witnessed. Before we get to the shocking revelation about who the Williams family really is, tell me in the comments, have you or someone you know faced this kind of harassment? Share your story. Our community needs to hear these experiences. By 5:30 p.m., the Williams' backyard was nearly empty. The jazz quartet packed their instruments in silence. The caterers quickly cleared tables, and family members consoled a devastated Marcus. But Karen Mitchell wasn't finished. Standing at her property line with a phone pressed to her ear, she made call after call. The guests who remained could hear fragments of her increasingly frantic conversations. Need code enforcement here immediately. Yes, I'm sure they don't have permits for a structure that size. Health department? They're serving food without proper licenses. FBI? Yes, I have evidence of a conspiracy to violate. Dr. Williams sat with her grandson on the porch steps, her arm around his shoulders. Why, Gran? Why does she hate us so much? We've never done anything to her. Before Dr. Williams could answer, 3 more official vehicles arrived. Code enforcement, the health department, and remarkably, 2 FBI agents responding to Karen's claim of an organized conspiracy to violate federal housing laws. The FBI agents, Special Agents Monica Davis and Richard Park, looked distinctly unimpressed as they approached. Agent Davis, a black woman in her 40s, surveyed the scene with experienced eyes. Dr. Williams? I'm Special Agent Davis. We received a complaint that needs to be addressed. I apologize for the intrusion. Judge Williams stood. Agent Davis, I'm familiar with federal jurisdiction. What possible federal crime could be occurring at a graduation party? Agent Davis sighed. Sir, the complainant alleged that you're running an illegal business from your home, using interstate commerce to violate federal housing discrimination laws, and operating an unlicensed entertainment venue. A graduation party is now an entertainment venue? Judge Williams, between you and me, we know what this is. But when someone makes a federal complaint, we have to respond. We'll make this as quick as possible. As the various agencies conducted their investigations, all finding nothing, Karen Mitchell grew increasingly agitated. News cameras captured her meltdown in high definition as she screamed at officers, agents, and inspectors. They're all in on it. This is reverse discrimination. I'm being targeted because I'm white. I demand justice. When Agent Davis calmly explained that no federal crimes had been committed, Karen made a crucial mistake. She grabbed the agent's arm and attempted to take her notepad. You're not writing the truth. Let me see what you're writing. This is a cover-up. Agent Davis's expression hardened. Ma'am, you just assaulted a federal agent. Step back immediately. I didn't assault anyone. You people always lie. That's what you do. Agent Park moved to intervene. Ma'am, you're under arrest for assaulting a federal officer and interfering with a federal investigation. The news cameras captured every second as Karen Mitchell was handcuffed in her own driveway, still screaming about conspiracies and cover-ups. Her final words before being placed in the FBI vehicle would prove prophetic. You don't know who you're messing with. I'll destroy all of you. The Williams family will rue this day. I'll make sure they never have another moment of peace in this neighborhood. As the FBI vehicle pulled away, Dr. Williams stood with her family on their lawn. The party was ruined, the joy of Marcus's achievement overshadowed by hatred and harassment. But Judge Williams squeezed his wife's hand with a knowing look. She just threatened us on federal camera, in front of federal agents, after assaulting one of them, he said quietly. She has no idea what she's just done. Dr. Johnson, who had been documenting everything, nodded. That's assault, interference with a federal investigation, false reporting across multiple agencies, and given the racial dynamics, potential federal civil rights violations. And we have it all on tape. Marcus looked at his grandparents, then at his advisor. What happens now? Dr. Williams kissed his forehead. Now, baby, we show them that justice isn't just a word. It's a promise. What Karen Mitchell didn't know, what she couldn't have known in her rage-fueled assumption that the Williams family were just uppity black people who needed to be put in their place, was that she had just attacked one of the most legally connected families in Georgia. The reveal began Monday morning when Karen, released on bond, returned home to find a process server waiting with a stack of documents an inch thick. Her hands shook as she read the first page. Civil action for violation of federal civil rights, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, assault, and conspiracy to violate housing rights. The plaintiff's attorney list read like a who's who of civil rights law. Dr. Ayanna Johnson, Director of the Emory Civil Rights Clinic. Benjamin Crump, National Civil Rights Attorney. The entire pro bono division of Williams, Patterson and Associates, the law firm founded by Judge Williams' brother, former U.S. Attorney General David Williams. But the real shock came when Karen discovered who else had been at the party recording everything. Channel 2 News producer Jamil Roberts. Atlanta Journal-Constitution, editor Maria Santos. 3 members of the Atlanta City Council. The current president of the Georgia NAACP. 2 federal prosecutors, who were family friends. The dean of Johns Hopkins Medical School, who had flown in to personally congratulate Marcus. Every single person had witnessed and recorded her racist tirade, her false reports, and her assault on a federal agent. Karen's attorney, Harold Morrison, went pale as he reviewed the evidence during their first meeting. Karen, they have 14 different video angles of you using racial slurs. They have recordings of you making false reports to 5 different agencies. They have you on federal camera assaulting an FBI agent. And, he paused, scrolling through his tablet, they have 3 years of complaints you filed against black families in the neighborhood. 3 years? Every time an African-American family moved in, you called the police. Every barbecue, every birthday party, every gathering. They've documented 47 false reports. Karen. And in discovery, they've found your emails to other neighbors, trying to organize what you called neighborhood preservation efforts. Karen's Facebook posts were even worse. Screenshots showed years of racist rants about protecting property values and maintaining standards, always posted after black families moved into the neighborhood. But the most damaging revelation came from an unexpected source. Officer Crawford, disgusted by what he'd witnessed, came forward with body camera footage from previous calls to the neighborhood. In one particularly damning clip from 2 years earlier, Karen could be heard telling him, "You need to find something to charge them with. I don't care what. These people don't belong here." The FBI investigation, triggered by Karen's own assault on Agent Davis, uncovered a network of homeowners across Atlanta who coordinated harassment campaigns against black families. Karen's computer contained emails, spreadsheets, tracking black residents, and a private Facebook group called Preserving Buckhead, with over 200 members dedicated to maintaining neighborhood standards, a thinly veiled code for racial discrimination. Dr. Williams sat in her attorney's office, reviewing the mountain of evidence. She thought we were just another black family she could intimidate. She never imagined we'd fight back. Dr. Johnson nodded. The federal charges alone carry up to 5 years. But the civil case? With this evidence, we're going to set a precedent that will echo across the country. If this story is making your blood boil, you're not alone. Share this video right now. Send it to everyone who needs to see that racism has consequences. Because what happens next is going to restore your faith in justice. Within 48 hours of the party, the story exploded across social media. The hashtag #GraduationWhileBlack trended nationally as videos of the incident went viral. Marcus's crumpled medical school acceptance letter became an iconic image, shared millions of times with captions about black excellence persevering through white rage. The Williams family, initially reluctant to embrace the spotlight, decided to speak out when they realized the scope of what they'd uncovered. Dr. Williams appeared on CNN, her composure and eloquence drawing praise as she explained, "This wasn't just about one graduation party. Karen Mitchell was part of a coordinated effort to drive black families from our neighborhood. We've discovered she and her network have successfully harassed 3 families into moving over the past 5 years. We're fighting back not just for us, but for every family who couldn't." The investigation revealed shocking details. Karen's real estate agent husband, Tom Mitchell, had been secretly offering below-market cash offers to black families after his wife's harassment campaigns. The couple would then flip these houses to white buyers at massive profits. They'd done this successfully 4 times, earning over $1.2 million in profits. Emails showed Karen bragging to friends about her neighborhood improvement initiative. Other victims began coming forward. The Johnsons, who'd moved out in 2021, shared their story of constant police visits, code enforcement, harassment, and threatening letters. The Washingtons revealed they'd installed $30,000 worth of security cameras just to document the harassment. The Perezes, a black and Latino family, described finding "Go Back to Mexico" flyers on their car, despite being Puerto Rican Americans born in Atlanta. The business consequences came swiftly. Tom Mitchell's real estate firm, Premier Atlanta Properties, lost its licensing after the Georgia Real Estate Commission launched an investigation. Major corporations pulled their relocation contracts. Within 2 weeks, the firm announced bankruptcy. Karen's employer, Buckhead Financial Services, where she'd worked as a senior manager for 15 years, terminated her for actions incompatible with company values. Her professional licenses in financial planning were suspended pending investigation. The social ostracization was complete. The Buckhead Country Club revoked the Mitchells' membership after several prominent members, including Judge Williams' golf foursome, threatened to resign. Karen's beloved garden club expelled her unanimously. Even her church asked the family to take time for reflection, away from our congregation. But the true aftermath came from an unexpected source. Inspired by the Williams stand, families across Atlanta began sharing their own stories of housing discrimination. A coalition formed, led by Dr. Johnson and supported by the Williams family, to pursue a class action lawsuit against the network of harassers the FBI had uncovered. The media coverage was relentless. Documentary crews followed the case. Podcasts dissected every development. The image of Dr. Williams comforting her grandson while police swarmed their graduation party became a symbol of racial injustice in America. Marcus himself, initially devastated by the incident, found his voice. His essay about the experience, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, went viral. Johns Hopkins invited him to speak at orientation about resilience and justice. He received thousands of messages from young black students sharing their own stories and drawing inspiration from his. The neighborhood itself transformed. Decent neighbors who had remained silent out of fear or discomfort began speaking up. A community meeting drew over 300 residents who voted to implement new anti-discrimination policies and establish a diversity committee. Several white neighbors publicly apologized to black families for not speaking up sooner. Karen's former allies distanced themselves rapidly. The Preserving Buckhead Facebook group was shut down by Meta for violating hate speech policies. Members scrubbed their social media profiles and claimed they had no idea about Karen's true intentions. Some faced their own legal consequences as the investigation widened. The ripple effects spread beyond Atlanta. Cities across Georgia and neighboring states began reviewing their policies on harassment complaints. The Justice Department announced a nationwide initiative to investigate similar networks of housing discrimination. 3 months after the party, as summer turned to fall, the Williams family held another gathering. This time, it was a farewell party for Marcus before he left for Johns Hopkins. The same jazz quartet played, the same caterer served food, and many of the same guests attended. But this time, there were no police, no false complaints, no harassment. Karen Mitchell's house sat empty, a "for sale by bank" sign in the yard. The Mitchell family had fled Atlanta, their reputations destroyed, their finances in ruins, facing years of legal battles. Before we get to the stunning legal verdict, make sure you've subscribed and hit the notification bell. Cases like this set precedents that protect all of us. You need to stay informed about your rights. The federal criminal trial of United States versus Karen Mitchell began on September 15, 2023, in the Northern District of Georgia. Karen faced charges of assaulting a federal officer, interfering with a federal investigation, and conspiracy to violate federal housing rights. The prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jacqueline Chen, presented a devastating case. Body camera footage showed Karen grabbing Agent Davis's arm and attempting to take her notepad. Audio recordings captured her making false statements to federal agents. But the most damaging evidence came from the FBI's digital forensics team. Emails presented to the jury showed Karen coordinating with other homeowners to file false complaints. In one message dated March 2022, she wrote, "Remember, don't mention race. Say it's about noise, property values, safety concerns. We have to be smart about this." A spreadsheet found on her computer tracked every black family in a 5-mile radius, with notes like "filed noise complaint 3/15" and "code enforcement visit scheduled." The jury gasped when prosecutors revealed she had installed illegal recording devices to monitor her black neighbors' activities. Karen's defense attorney tried to argue she was merely a concerned citizen worried about neighborhood standards. This strategy collapsed when prosecutors played a recorded phone call where Karen told a friend, "I don't care if they're doctors or judges. They don't belong here. This is our neighborhood." The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, Judge Martha Rodriguez did not mince words. "Mrs. Mitchell, you weaponized law enforcement against your neighbors based solely on their race. You turned what should have been a joyful celebration into a traumatic experience for a young man who had achieved academic excellence. You represent the worst of what fear and hatred can produce." Karen received 18 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised release, $50,000 in fines, 500 hours of community service with civil rights organizations, mandatory diversity and inclusion training. But the criminal trial was just the beginning. The civil lawsuit, Williams v. Mitchell, sought damages for violation of federal civil rights under 42 U.S.C. Section 1982, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, assault and battery, conspiracy to interfere with housing rights, punitive damages. The evidence presented in civil court went even deeper. Financial records showed the Mitchells had profited $1.2 million from their harassment scheme. Text messages revealed Karen celebrating when black families moved out. Another victory, property values safe for another day. Dr. Johnson and her team presented expert testimony on the psychological impact of racial harassment. Dr. Marcus Williams testified about developing anxiety and insomnia after the incident. His grandmother spoke about the violation of their sanctuary, their home. The defense's attempt to minimize damages failed spectacularly when Karen's deposition was played. Despite her attorney's advice, she couldn't help herself. "I don't see why I should pay them anything. They got to have their party, didn't they? I'm the real victim here." The jury deliberated for 2 days. Their verdict? $400,000 in compensatory damages for emotional distress. $100,000 for assault and battery. Tohunrøyd, null for defamation. $300,000 for conspiracy to violate housing rights. $1.1 million in punitive damages. Total, $2.1 million. But the legal consequences didn't stop there. The IRS, alerted by the financial evidence, launched an investigation into the Mitchells' house-flipping scheme. They discovered $400,000 in unreported income and filed tax evasion charges. The Georgia Real Estate Commission permanently revoked Tom Mitchell's license and fined him $250,000 for discriminatory practices. He faced separate civil suits from the families who had been forced to sell below market value. The class action lawsuit, representing 12 families harassed by the Preserving Buckhead Network, sought $15 million in damages. Karen and Tom Mitchell were named as primary defendants alongside 20 other homeowners. Federal monitoring was imposed on the Buckhead Heights HOA for 5 years. Any complaint against a minority family would trigger automatic review by the Justice Department. The precedent set by the case rippled through legal circles. Law schools added Williams v. Mitchell to their civil rights curriculum. The case established that coordinated harassment campaigns could constitute conspiracy to violate federal housing rights, even without explicit racial language. Other jurisdictions took notice. Cities implemented Karen laws, imposing civil penalties for false, racially motivated police reports. Police departments created special units to investigate patterns of discriminatory complaints. Karen's mugshot became a cautionary tale, used in diversity training programs nationwide. Legal experts called the case a landmark in combating modern forms of housing discrimination. By November 2023, as Karen reported to federal prison, the Mitchells had lost everything. Their $1.8 million home, foreclosed. Their retirement savings, liquidated for legal fees. Their professional licenses. Their social standing. Their freedom. As Karen Mitchell served her sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee, the full scope of her downfall became clear. Prison records showed she was assigned to kitchen duty, earning 12 cents per hour, a far cry from her $150,000 salary at Buckhead Financial Services. Her husband Tom's attempts to restart his real estate career failed spectacularly. No firm would hire him, and his attempt to start an independent practice ended when no insurance company would bond him. He took a job as a night security guard at a warehouse, earning $15 per hour. The Mitchell children faced their own consequences. Their daughter Ashley, a senior at the University of Georgia, was expelled from her sorority after members discovered her mother's racist posts. Their son, Tyler, lost his finance internship when the firm learned about the case. Both children legally changed their last names and relocated out of state. The family's social media presence vanished. Karen's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts were suspended for hate speech violations. Her infamous Preserving Buckhead group spawned numerous investigative articles and a Netflix documentary titled The Neighborhood Watch, a story of modern segregation. Meanwhile, the positive changes catalyzed by the case continued to ripple outward. The Williams Family Foundation, established with a portion of the settlement money, began offering legal support to families facing housing discrimination. In its first year, it helped 47 families fight back against racial harassment. Marcus Williams became an unexpected civil rights icon. He deferred medical school for a year to speak at universities and conferences about confronting systemic racism. His TED Talk, Graduation While Black: How My Party Changed America, garnered 5 million views. Dr. Patricia Williams was appointed to the Georgia Commission on Equal Opportunity, where she helped draft legislation making false, discriminatory reports a felony offense. The Dr. Williams Act passed with bipartisan support. Judge Robert Williams came out of retirement to teach a course at Emory Law School on modern civil rights litigation, using his family's case as the primary study material. Buckhead Heights underwent a dramatic transformation. Property values, which Karen claimed to be protecting, actually increased by 15% as the neighborhood's reputation improved. Diverse families felt safe moving in, bringing fresh energy and investment. The neighborhood's annual block party, established after Karen's arrest, became a model for inclusive community building. Media outlets featured stories about former divided neighbors now sharing meals and watching each other's children. Officer James Crawford, who had responded to the initial call, received a commendation for his handling of the situation. He became a leading voice in police reform, training officers to recognize and document discriminatory complaint patterns. FBI agent Monica Davis, whose assault became the catalyst for federal charges, was promoted to head a new task force investigating networked housing discrimination. Her team uncovered similar schemes in 14 states, leading to 200 arrests nationwide. The documentary about the case won 3 Emmy Awards. Karen Mitchell, watching from federal prison, was reportedly devastated to see her actions dramatized for millions of viewers. Prison officials noted she required psychiatric intervention after the documentary aired. Corporate responses continued long after the verdict. Companies implemented Karen clauses in employee contracts, allowing immediate termination for racial harassment. Professional licensing boards added discrimination as grounds for license revocation. By January 2024, the Mitchell family home had been purchased by Dr. Amara Okafor, a Nigerian-American surgeon. In a moment of poetic justice, she hosted a housewarming party. On the same day, Karen had called the police on the Williams family. No complaints were filed. The legal industry estimated the Mitchells' total losses at over $5 million, $2.1 million judgment, $800,000 in criminal defense fees, $600,000 in civil legal fees, $1.8 million home foreclosure, if 0.10731 IRS penalties, future earning potential destroyed. Karen's prison term ended in March 2025, but her supervised release conditions included severe restrictions. She was banned from social media, prohibited from joining any homeowners associations, and required to attend monthly diversity training sessions. Her tearful interview with a local news station upon release drew no sympathy. "I've lost everything," she sobbed. "My family, my career, my home, all because I made some phone calls." The reporter's response went viral. "No, Mrs. Mitchell. You lost everything because you tried to weaponize racism. Justice just held you accountable." As we reach the end of this story, it's important to understand that what happened to the Williams family wasn't unique. It was just uniquely documented, prosecuted, and resolved. Across America, Black families face this harassment daily. Most don't have Judge Williams' legal connections or Dr. Williams' resources. Most don't have federal agents as witnesses or news crews recording every moment. The real victory here isn't the $2.1 million judgment or Karen Mitchell's imprisonment. It's the precedent set, the networks exposed, and the message sent. Racial harassment has consequences. You cannot weaponize law enforcement against your neighbors. You cannot conspire to drive families from their homes. Not anymore. Marcus Williams, now thriving at Johns Hopkins, reflected on the experience in a recent interview. "That day was supposed to be about celebrating my achievements. It became about something bigger, standing up to systemic racism. My grandparents taught me that justice isn't just about winning your own battle. It's about making sure the next family doesn't have to fight." Dr. Patricia Williams continues her advocacy work, traveling the country to speak about housing discrimination. Her message is consistent. Document everything. Build coalitions. Don't let them silence you. And remember, your presence in any space you've earned is not negotiable. The Williams v. Mitchell case has become required reading in law schools, a training example for police departments, and a cautionary tale in corporate diversity programs. It demonstrates how modern racism operates through seemingly race-neutral complaints and coordinated harassment campaigns. For the Mitchells, the story serves as a warning about the price of hatred. Karen's assumption that her whiteness would protect her, that the systems she weaponized would always take her side, proved catastrophically wrong. She learned that in 2023, consequences could indeed find you. The neighborhood that Karen Mitchell tried so desperately to preserve is now more diverse and valuable than ever. Children of all backgrounds play together in the same yards where police once swarmed. The annual block party celebrating diversity draws hundreds of residents. The jazz quartet that played at Marcus's graduation party now performs there every year. As for Marcus Williams, he's excelling in medical school, driven by a mission to address healthcare disparities. He keeps a framed photo on his desk, not of his graduation day, but of his grandmother standing strong while chaos swirled around her. It reminds him that dignity, in the face of injustice, is its own form of resistance. This story isn't just about karma finding Karen Mitchell. It's about a community finding its conscience, a family finding justice, and a nation being forced to confront the racism that still lurks behind HOA meetings and noise complaints. The Williams family turned their worst day into a catalyst for change. They proved that when you come for black excellence with racist intent, you might just end up losing everything you thought you were protecting. Because in the end, the only thing Karen Mitchell successfully preserved was evidence of her own downfall.